You're listening to the Codependent Millennial Podcast with Sophie Shilo, episode 49, Omisade Burney-Scott on being sweet to your damn self. Hello, my love. So nice to be talking to you. So happy you're here right now. Today's episode is a treasure. It's a conversation I had with a woman named Omisade Burney-Scott. I want to read to you the words that she uses on her website to self-identify, but I think powerful introductions are about so much more than someone's bio or resume or a list of all their most notable accomplishments, and she has many. But I think it's really important when introducing someone to emphasize the impact they've had on your life. And so that's what I want to do here in this intro as well, because while I've only known that Omisade exists for like 2 weeks, she really has had an incredibly profound impact on my life. I learned about Omisade and her multimedia project called The Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause a few weeks ago on YouTube. I was watching those amazing Style Like You interviews, and one really stood out. There was this radiant, gorgeous woman on the thumbnail. She just looked electric. She was radiating. And then I saw the title. It said, "My body was screaming at me. How depression saved Omisade Burney-Scott's life." And that's my story. So immediately I was just like, okay, this is a human that I need to learn from immediately. It was such a moving interview, but I was left with so many questions. So I went to her website, started devouring podcast episodes, started seeing all of the incredible things that Omisade is doing out in the world. And I was just overwhelmed and inspired and enlightened by her work. So go to the show notes to find everything that she has going on, because there's a lot and it's all really good. She has a zine called Messages from the Menopausal Multiverse. She has an amazing podcast called The Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause. She has essays on grief and love and liberation and so much more. Her website is blackgirlsguidetosurvivingmenopause.com. Her podcast is Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause, and you can find her on Instagram at Ocean Sweet and Sour, Sweet and Sour, Ocean Sweet and Sour. I'm seriously so honored that these women that I admire and appreciate and call on as guides want to talk to me. My intention with that statement isn't to belittle myself at all, but after the conversation with Joan on the last episode and this conversation with Omisade and with a couple of other things that I have in the works, like I'm just blown away really by this huge web of a community that you don't even realize exists before you dip your toe in. Please don't wait a single moment or talk yourself out of it when you feel the spark of wanting to get in touch with someone, even if your brain tries to tell you that they're too important and smart and busy and powerful and cool to talk to you. I just recorded interviews with two of my heroes in the span of 30 days, so you can literally do anything. Trust me. Trust me. Before I roll this interview with her, I'll read to you her own words about who she is and what she does. Omisade Burney-Scott is a Black Southern seventh-generation native North Carolinian feminist, mother, and healer with decades of experience in nonprofit leadership, philanthropy, and social justice. She's a founding tribe member of Spirit House and previously served as a board member of the Beautiful Project, Village of Wisdom, and Working Films. Omisade is the creator of The Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause, a multimedia project seeking to curate and share the stories and realities of Black women and femmes over 50. She's a graduate of UNC-Chapel Hill, the proud mother of 2 sons, and resides in Durham. Now, without making you wait another moment, please enjoy this conversation that I had with Omisade. Omisade Burney-Scott, you are amazing. I want you to give a little bit of an introduction. I'm going to introduce you, of course, before this, but I want you to tell my audience who you are, what is really important that people know about you.
That's a great question. And thank you for having me, Sophie. Yeah. I think the things that are really important to me that I want your listeners to know is not what I do, but who I am and who I'm trying to be. So who I am a 7th generation North Carolinian, so I'm Southern. who I am, as I'm my parents' daughter. My parents are ancestors. They've been deceased now for almost 20 years or more. So I move in the world as somebody's child, but not somebody's child who's here physically anymore. Mm. I am a sister. I have older siblings and a younger sister. I'm a mom to two spectacularly beautiful Black boys who aren't boys anymore. My oldest son will be 30 next month. My youngest son will be 14 in October. But they've taught me so much about like how to love and how to love myself and to be more soft and open and gentle with them and with me. I am an Aries.
Me too.
Yeah, with a Leo moon and a Leo rising. So I am fire, fire, and fire.
Incredible. That's so powerful.
I think that's important for folks to know what they're getting into.
Yeah, exactly. What they're getting into.
I'm just saying, just be prepared.
Yep.
And I'm a really passionate person around healing. My own healing, the healing and safety of my people, Black people, healing of our country, healing of our culture. That's my thing. I think that liberation and radical love is at the core of healing. So that's really important to me. And like who I'm trying to be is just a really happy, vibrant, safe, joyous, love person. That's who I'm trying to be.
Can I ask you to elaborate a little bit about radical love and what that means to you, how you embody that, how you use that in your relationship with you?
Yeah. So I think, I had a very traditional kind of view of what love is. I had older parents who were both born during the Great Depression and raised in Jim Crow South. And so a lot of the ways that I experienced love from my parents was, providing you something, right? Like you have a home, you have a safe place to live, you have a safe place to lay your head, you are going to school, you'll get to go to college, you're safe, like your physical safety in terms of like stability was like a really important thing. But the kind of emotional vulnerability was not something that was always available to them, and I understand why. And I also feel like for me, I didn't think that I could be as sensitive as I am emotionally. I felt like that was problematic. So I started to try to figure out like how to mask my emotions or mask my sensitivity, not very successfully, honestly. And so as I've gotten older and also have been on a pretty consistent journey around my mental health and my wellness, radical love looks like me actually allowing myself to be much more curious and open to my authentic self. Like, who is she? What does she want? What does she desire? What does softness look like? What does intimacy and vulnerability look like in all the relationships I choose to have access to that? Because I don't think that everybody should have access to it. I think boundaries are really important. But I think that the radical part of it is like, what does it mean for me to be vulnerable to myself? Like allow myself to have whatever kind of thoughts I might have and be curious about the origins of those thoughts without shaming or being embarrassed. Or if I am feeling some embarrassment for a thought, or if I am feeling some shame or whatever for a thought, to allow that to just be released from me in its time, and not feeling like you're failing. You have to hurry up and get over this thought. And it's like, no, I'm not failing. I'm like, this thought is here for a reason, or this feeling is here for a reason. And so I think the radical part of that is like working every day to suspend judgment, working every day to alleviate shame, working every day to be more open to who I am and who I allow to have access to my authentic self. So, yeah.
So that is a beautiful lead in to just me saying just for a second about how I discovered you, because I found out about you 5 minutes ago, essentially. And truly, I saw your Style Like You interview and I was I'm like, I'm done. Like, so I'm done. I was blown away. And so I haven't had the chance yet to like listen to quite every single podcast you have, but I just dove in immediately and started gobbling them up. So the thing you said, the phrase you said that kind of hit me and just told me that I had to reach out to you and talk to you and learn everything you have to say and all of that was you talking about just being sweet to your damn self. And part of that, includes not coming to yourself with judgment and shame, like you just mentioned, which is amazing. I want you to talk more about that. But that there are so many ways for us to be sweet to our damn selves. And you also had an interview with Lunel, who was that interview. Everyone has, it's prerequisite information for like being a woman on earth. You know what I mean?
I think so too. She was an absolute hoot when we interviewed her. She was in her night dress. Like she's like, anybody gonna see this? I was like, no, she's
you're
like,
good.
Okay. I'm in my pajamas. I said, oh, it's fine, Mama Lunel, it's fine.
For her to just show up so much as her that she didn't even check before, like that's just so powerful. And so this concept of being sweet to your damn self, talk a little bit about that, because coming out of a childhood where you're describing you were shown certain kinds of love and you were probably not shown how to love yourself in other various important ways. So like, what does it mean to you to be sweet to your damn self now? How do you do that? How have you learned that over the course of, having kids, experiencing menopause? It's a simple question. Should only take, 1 or 2 sentences to answer. It's no big deal.
Maybe, yeah. or 12 or 13. But so I want to say something, my parents worked really, really hard. And my mom was super loving and like a huge cheerleader of anything that my younger sister and I wanted to do in terms of like extracurricular activities. If we wanted to do dance, if we wanted to whatever, she was like, yes, let's do it, let's make it happen. And I think that was born out of her not having access to so many things as a kid. Like they were really, really, really poor. The thing that I didn't see my mother do was take good care of herself. She was always extending that out to other people. Are you good? Are you hungry? Are you cold? Are you sleepy? Let me take you here. Let me take you there. I didn't see my mom rest until my mom got sick. And that felt like a really, really important part of my framing of like, what does it look like to take care of yourself? What does it look like to be sweet to yourself? What does rest, what does care look like? She just did not rest. And she wasn't the only one that I observed doing that inside of our family. Like none of the Black women inside of my family rest. They didn't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. They were always emotional.
And the concept was just like foreign entirely.
The concept is foreign because it's not a luxury that Black women are afforded in this country in so many ways. And definitely that generation, right? My, like I said, my parents were not boomers. My parents were the great
before. Generation. Yeah. So that was not even a question.
Absolutely not. No. What do you do? You work hard.
Yeah.
And you take care of your family. And you're in constant motion. You're cooking. You're taking someone to this class or someone to this club. There's always something going on. And so my relationship with rest to me is like an exemplar of a place where I didn't know how to be sweet to myself. Like rest to me is such a really important part of my sweetness practice now. And I think that one of the unintended outcomes of the pandemic is that it allowed me to lean in more deeply into the fact that I don't know how to rest. I still struggle sometimes, even working remotely, even still working primarily from home, like carving out times in my day where I'm just in a place of just rest and ease, and not in motion, even inside my house. I tease that, the virtual world that we kind of operate in now, I feel like I'm in a long hallway and I'm running from one Zoom room to the next, and I'm like, oh, are we on Zoom or are we on Google Meet? Or are we on Google Meet or are we on Skype? And I'm just running around in this virtual space and like giving myself an opportunity to stop in this virtual space and go outside and get some sun. To stop and to lay down, even if I'm not taking a nap, like if I don't close my eyes and go to sleep, but just to recline.
Yeah.
And let my body soften and be quiet and just settle in. I listen to music all the time anyway, but to put on some music that just lets me just like time travel or relax.
Yes, time travel.
Yeah, all the time, whatever the case may be. So the being sweet to myself right now primarily looks like the ways in which I allow myself to rest. And I think it's still a journey of figuring out these things and unlearning a lot of what I saw growing up as a kid.
Yeah. So unlearning, let's pause there for a minute. The undoing, you mentioned that in your interview with Dr. Jen from Decolonizing Therapy, you talk about the undoing of so much of what we were taught, the disguises that we put on ourselves in order to survive, and just the various habits of either not resting or telling yourself that you're not allowed to, not giving yourself permission to do all of this. Like, I think it relates also to sovereignty, having sovereignty over your own body and your own life, literally just living it as if it is yours, because it is.
Because it is.
So talk a little bit more about what you have to undo, what you have to unlearn in order to be a happy woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's really the essence of it.
I mean, I want everybody to be happy people, however they identify, right? So I identify as a cis hetero woman. Whoever's listening to your podcast may not identify that way. And
exactly.
I want everyone who listens to you to know that what happened for me, the undoing or the unlearning absolutely kind of exists inside of these constructs that we live in this country, right? So capitalism tells you got to be like producing. I'm a Gen X kid, right? So it's like, where is the evidence that you're a valuable person? The evidence in, did you go to college? Well, where did you go to college?
Yeah.
There's always the bar of like evidence of your legitimacy, or if you're fraudulent. Like it feels like it's like one of those kind of like whack-a-mole situations. Like you can never really actually get it right. So it's like, okay, inside of a capitalistic construct, what does success look like? You got to go to college. You got to go to a particular kind of college. You got to have a particular kind of degree or a particular kind of job, but you got not just have any job. What's your title in your job? What do you do? What are you responsible for? Are you a supervisor? Like, how many people do you supervise? Do you have a budget? Well, how big is your budget? Like, it's always like proof.
And also the competition of how much do you overwork, this masochistic competition of like, I literally put in 65 hours last week. I'm killing myself. Yeah.
Right. And then people being like, oh my God, I put in 80 hours last week. And then they're like, but I'm getting ready to go to Cabo, so I feel so much better about it. So it's like, well, why do you have to do that?
Yeah.
Like, it's a very bizarre way in which we're in the hyper productivity, the hyper speed of work. Like, you have to prove your worth.
Yeah.
And and because I operate with the intersectional identity of someone who is who's black, who's a woman, who's cis, who's hetero, who's college educated, who I feel like has been pretty successful in being able to take care of myself most of my adult life, not all of my adult life, most of it.
Yeah.
You move in a way where you're like, you also realize how much white supremacy and patriarchy has like jacked you up.
Yeah. And that hits you. And then you're like,
right. And so the unlearning is, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Am I actually really happy? Do I want to do this? well, if I stop doing this, what will I lose? Am I willing to lose whatever that is? Like, because some of that, what I think I will lose is like actually not real anyway. So like, how do I give myself permission to be very clear? I've never worked in corporate America. I've always worked, I worked in higher ed, and I've worked in social justice in the nonprofit sector. And so, and then you would think, oh, well, that doesn't happen inside of the social justice nonprofit. That's not true.
Yeah. Oh God. No, I mean, yeah.
No. The hyper work that exists inside of nonprofits is, to me, again, an example of like how capitalism and white supremacy, work ethic, like what have you, working 7 days a week,
it's
crazy
bad.
hours, dragging.
I come from that world too. It's
my
crazy.
hand while I'm talking to you, Sophie. Yeah. To drag my oldest kid is to drag him to every single meeting, every single action, every single protest, every single campaign, you know, every single board meeting. You know, he for the longest time, Che was always the only kid in the room.
Yeah.
And there was some, I don't know, honor in being like, oh yeah,
pride.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, honestly, that does make sense, because like, fuck yes, you're raising this incredible, aware child who's engaged and who sees the impact of how his mom walks in the world. But then there's like what you're saddling yourself with when you allow yourself to live only in that way. There's no rest. There's no connection with him. There's
no rest, and there's no boundary.
No.
Right. There's no boundary. There's no like, somebody could call me at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. And especially with Che, because my boys are 16 years apart.
Yeah.
So with Che, folk could disrupt whatever time that I should have been really dedicated to being in mommy mode with him.
Yeah.
And be like, listen, I need to talk to you about this, or I'm working on X, Y, and Z. And, he just learned to go with the flow with it and be like, snuggle up underneath me while I'm working. Or take care of himself and be in his room. And, both my boys are very low-key, chill ass kids. So I'm very blessed in that way. But I also know that the way that I sometimes showed up for him, I won't do that with Taj. I've changed with Taj. And I think that, and Che sees that. We've talked about it too. We've talked about that as he's an adult and what that was like for him. And, I talk about that with Taj, and I'm very clear with people who are working with me now, like, I'm not available to talk to you after a certain time.
Yep.
And I will not allow that time to take away from Taj.
Yeah.
It's very important to me now. I'm divorced. I've been divorced now for 9 years. And so it's really important to be in a healthy co-parenting relationship with his dad. And it's really important to be in a healthy relationship with both my boys, as I'm still parenting an adult child and a teenager.
Yeah.
And so those boundaries became even more clear to me with my depression, around really needing to take care of myself and really needing to be at home and comfortable with my kids and my family, and allowing them to take care of me and me be open to that.
Yeah. So one of the most challenging things for women to do, I think, just based on observational and personal experience, is receiving love, receiving care, not only from ourselves, but from others as well. So how have you been able to really sort of surrender to that and say, no, I'm not going to be a martyr anymore. I'm not going to base all my worth on how much I'm willing to sacrifice anymore. I'm not going to play this masochistic competition game of how much can I suffer? How much can I work? How much can I sacrifice? Talk a little bit about your experience of just saying, no, I'm going to allow myself to exist, and exist beautifully, and exist with joy.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing is, I don't have any illusions of perfection. What's that quote? Like, perfection is the thief of joy. Is that?
Yeah. So
I don't know, Sophie. I'm still figuring that shit out.
Yeah.
I legit don't know, like fully. Like I know what I do know is I'm committed.
Yeah.
Where I do know that it's a praxis for me. And so I know that every day I'm like, I want Omisade to be happy. I want Omisade to be whole. I want Omisade to be safe. I want Omisade to be creative. I want Omisade to be committed. But every day I am trying to disrupt any illusions of perfection. And some days I feel really good at it. Some days I suck the entire
Yeah.
Some weeks I suck the entire week where I'm just like, yo, this was just like pushing a boulder up a hill all week long around all of my imposter syndrome, all of my ways in which I feel like fraudulent, even at almost 55 years old.
Yeah.
You know, all the ways where I feel like I'm still in my own little anxious attachment style, dancing as hard as I possibly can to get people to be like, aren't you just the sweetest little lovable thing?
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't happen, and be like, dance faster, dance harder, be more shiny, you know, and then maybe someone will be like, oh my God, did you see this person over here just dancing and sweating profusely? Let's give them all the love that they need. Let's protect them. Let's offer them resource so they can feel really, really good about themselves. And so I don't have a perfection. I don't have a way that I would say to someone, this is the life hack. Here's a plot twist, Sophie. There is no life hack.
Yeah.
There is no life hack. I think the life hack is if you decided that the way you've been moving in the world is detrimental to your spirit, to your soul, to your happiness, to your heart, to your mind, and you just got to figure out ways to cut that shit out. Just figure out every day, how am I going to disrupt this? What's a real simple thing I can do to disrupt this today? How can I disrupt it tomorrow? And just be in a constant place of, oh, if something pops up and I realize that I'm dancing again, I'm dancing really hard again. Be like, what are you doing? What's wrong? Are you tired? Did somebody trigger you? Does this feel like a familiar scenario? You feel like you're time traveling right now back to the situation?
Yeah. Like, where'd you go? What happened?
Where'd you go? Come back. You can actually breathe. Take a moment. Be like, I need a moment. Let me hit y'all right back. Take a break. Take a walk. Take a nap. Drink some water. Chill out for a second. And then decide what you need. Like yesterday, I was on a call with some folk that I work with that I trust so much. I trust them, respect them. I love them so much. And I was feeling really crispy and tired. And so I asked for support, which is not something I would have done previously. I would have likely just been sitting on the Zoom with pinched eyes, you know, and like a headache brewing behind my eyes. And they would say, Omi, so are you cool to do that? And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll get something to y'all tomorrow. And yesterday I was like, y'all, I cannot. I need someone else on this team of people who I believe in and trust and know are fully capable to take this piece for the next couple of weeks. I can't do it. I have too much on my plate. And I not only will I not do it well, I'll be resentful if I have to do it. And they were like, thank you for being honest and thank you for asking. Of course we can take that for you. And I was like, thanks. I really appreciate that.
It's so valuable. That honesty, that self-awareness, the self-knowledge.
Yeah.
And I just want to also honor how, and thank you for doing that, because when women who younger women like me look up to do that, it really does. I know blah, blah, blah. Permission is something you can only give yourself, you know, whatever, but it's also not, you know, it is really, really valuable and helpful for us to see strong, capable, confident, beautiful women, or genuinely people of any gender identity. None of this matters, you know, et cetera. But seeing you do that, knowing that you have that experience of doubting yourself in that moment, saying, no, I really should overextend. No, I really do want to bend myself until I break here, but you don't. And that gives us permission not to as well. I just want to thank you. It's really powerful.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Beloved. It is so important. And I think that we often see people in front of us. We see them doing it. We can bear witness to folk engaging in the back bend, in the braking, in the hype speed, in the hyper productivity. And we watch, we are bystanders.
Yes.
And I think it's important for there to be reciprocity in this healing and this unlearning, where we actually extend ourselves to the folk that we care about and the folk that we're working with or being creative with, and say, listen, I'm noticing that you've been really doing a lot of work. How are you taking care of yourself? Is there something I can take off your plate?
Yeah.
You know, and it's really ironic. You modeling that will transform how you show up in the world and also the next generation. Yeah. Case in point, a couple of weeks ago, I was working. I had a really, really long day working with a client with my consulting practice. And I had been in my little office space all day long. And Taj came home from school and I was still here. And I said, listen, it's going to be a long evening, so I'm going to actually just order us some food. And he was like, no problem. Then he came back upstairs. He said, is there anything that I can do for you? And I was like,
Taj.
I don't know. He said, is there anything around the house that you need done that I could just take care of for you? And I was like, well, the kitchen could use some support. He was like, consider it done. He's 13.
Oh.
He's like, consider it done. So this kid goes downstairs.
Oh,
He's
me.
in the kitchen anyway. That's his job. But he went downstairs, cleaned the kitchen, took the trash out. And then I ordered the food. He unpackaged the food, put my food
on a plate,
and gave me some sugar and was like,
wow.
Love you. I was like, I love you too, sweetie. I love you too, sweetie.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal for me, because this kid was like, I know she's got some stuff she's committed to. I had a deadline that I couldn't wiggle out of that time. And so he was like, well, is there anything I can do to take something off your plate?
Like, we're on the same team, Mom. You're going to pull an all-nighter. What can I do? I got you. Yeah.
There are times where I think it's important for us to extend that kind of care to the folk who are in our lives.
Yes.
Who we're doing work with, to be able to say to someone, look, Sophie, I see you're working really hard. Sweetie, is there something I can take off your plate? As opposed to just watching you burn.
Yeah.
And we watch each other burn all the time. As women, we watch each other burn. We're like, ooh, she's going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
Well, don't stand there and observe.
Don't stand there. Yeah.
Bear witness to that and then be like,
say something.
I knew you were going to crash and burn. I was concerned. Well, were you really
not
concerned?
helpful? Were you real? Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big ass lie.
I didn't hear from you.
Until I was like stretched out. And then you're like, I was concerned, but I figured if you was doing it, you knew what you were doing.
Like I told you to reach out if you needed anything. Like,
oh my gosh, which is another thing that we do when we see somebody kind of in a grief cycle, when we see somebody exhibiting their post-traumatic stress or their trauma responses. And so we just watch.
Don't wait for them to ask for help. Yeah, you cannot do that. And, it's so trendy for people now to talk about being trauma informed. You can't be trauma informed if you talk about relying on this hyper individualistic method of healing. It's just, I know that we could just rant on that forever.
We really could. I think that, some of the ways in which I feel like people are talking about trauma-informed work or trauma-informed activism sometimes feels very passive, where you're watching someone and you're like, oh, what I'm observing right now is their trauma, so I'm just going to let them have their trauma. As opposed to, oh, what I'm observing right now is this person operating in their trauma, and that can activate me to speak to this person and say, I'm observing some things. I'm curious about some things. Are you open to us having a conversation about it? Yeah. And also, this is what I'd like to offer you. Are you open to that? Like, it's always to me, like I don't just want you to be curious and observing me from a kind of like an anthropological study type of
yes,
situation.
a voyeuristic kind of,
right,
no.
right.
Yeah.
No, I want you to actually be engaged and invested.
Yeah.
So, and I know I can't expect that from everybody. I'm not gullible enough to think that that's available from everybody. But the people who actually say that they are down for me and I'm down for them, I would prefer, if they see me operating from a place of my trauma, to be like, Omi, I have noticed over the last couple of months or the last couple of weeks, XYZ. Can we talk about that? Do you feel open to talking about this with me? And is there something I can do for you? This is what I'd like to offer. And I'm always that person when I'm talking to folk that I work with or that I'm in relationship with. I say, well, what do you need? Do you need me to listen? Would you like for me to reflect what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
And can I offer you something?
Yeah.
So, I'll say, would you like to take a walk this weekend? I'd love to walk with you. Would you like to have some tea? You want to have tea outside, or do you feel comfortable having tea inside? Want me to send you a playlist? I think I'm a DJ Sophie. I'm a curator of vibes.
I was going to ask you for your music earlier, and I was like, I don't know if she'd give me her personal Spotify, but I'm going to need it.
I will send you my Spotify.
Good.
I am a curator of vibes, and I will say to someone, you want me to make you a playlist?
That's like a special kind of love. That's deep.
That's like a 21st century mixtape. Are you kidding me?
That's intensely special if someone does that for you.
If somebody thinks enough of me to curate a playlist for me, first of all, I think we go together. I think you want to date me.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to date me? Is that what did you just say?
Yeah. Are you like, what's going on here? What kind of messages are you sending me? Yes, but this is huge. You also talk about music like that. That is okay. So when you ask someone, how do you want me to support you right now? How can I show up for you? So many times we don't know how to ask. We don't know what to say. We don't know, like, especially if you're at the very beginning, like clients, when I first start working with someone, oftentimes they don't know what they like to eat. They don't know what kind of music they like. They've lost themselves. They've abandoned themselves for so many years. They don't know. But for you to say, hey, here are some of the ways that I like to connect to nature, to myself, that I like to ground. Let's do some of it. Like, that's extremely helpful for people who just have gone so far off the path of self-love that they do not know how to care for themselves.
Yeah.
They need like, let me show you how to do this. Let me it's, you need way showers, I think.
You do. You need way showers and you need way finding tools, like to get back on your path. And, and it's sometimes when you're off your path, it can feel really scary and isolating. And to have someone look at you and say, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And you're like, you will? And you're like, yeah, sure. I'll go with you. Let's go. Let's go together.
Let's go. This path is one that you can walk. It's not going to kill you. It's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. This actually, okay, let me ask you this question, because that reminds me so much of the language that I use for this question. Being afraid of something and it actually working out beautifully. So, okay. So what do you wish you could tell your pre-menopausal self, yourself in your 20s or 30s or 40s, yourself during your most confused or uncomfortable? So like when you were on your path and you were the most confused or the most discouraged, the most lost from yourself, what do you think helped bring you back? What were your wayfinding tools? What helped you bring or come back to yourself? Does that question make sense?
It does. It does. I'm having this visualization right now of, times, especially in my 20s and 30s. My parents passed away in my early 30s, and I felt very much like, wow, like how am I moving in the world now without parents? Like this is such a hard thing. I still have so many questions and so many things I want to know, and I'm grateful that I actually developed and started practicing African traditional religion that allowed me to develop a really deep relationship with my ancestors. And so one of the things, if I could time travel back to myself in my early 30s, I would say, you can slow down for a second. Matter of fact, have a seat. Here, drink some cool water. Take a couple of breaths. Stop holding your stomach in. Let your stomach just be full. Just relax. Soften your belly. Soften your jaw. Relax. Your ancestors are all around you. Your parents are all around you. They might not be here with you physically, but you can still talk to them. You can still have a deeply loving relationship. You can still heal with them. And you're going to get to know them better now that they're not physically here. You're going to be surprised by some of the things you learn about them in the next 20 years. And it's true. There have been things that have been revealed to me inside of our family about my parents, in particular about my mother, that I didn't know until like year before last. During the pandemic, things were brought to my attention. Things were revealed, really important things.
Yeah.
That helped me understand her more as a woman, not as my mom.
Yeah.
But as a woman, right?
That distinction is everything, really, I think.
The complexity of who we are as people. And when we get relegated to a one-dimensional or a two-dimensional identity of just like, oh, well, they're a mother or they're a partner or they're X, Y, and Z. Like we engage in erasure all the time of all of the ways that people show up.
Yeah.
And so I would want to time travel back to myself and be like, you're getting ready to find out some things that are going to help you understand yourself better. All of who you are, what makes you tick, what you need, what you deserve, what you actually want. And give yourself permission to say out loud what you want without hesitation, right? And so I do think that it is an ongoing journey of returning to yourself. I used to be in this place where I felt like if I was evolving as a person, I was leaving parts of myself behind, which also, if I'm being honest, I was like banishing parts of myself.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like, oh, I'm evolving. And so
it was like hateful.
Oh, it was just like, oh, she was so problematic at 16. Oh, she was so messy at 25. Oh, she was so whatever at 30. As opposed to being like, oh, I kind of understand why the 16-year-old did this, or why the 25-year-old did this, or why the 30 or the 35-year-old did this. All of the avatars, all of the versions of myself were invested in keeping me safe.
Yeah.
And some of the ways that I tried to keep myself safe were like ill-informed.
Yeah.
Or immature.
Yeah.
Right. And so
they were the highest capacity that you had at that time.
And so what I get to do is engage in reunification of all my avatars. Listen, honey, I love the 16-year-old. I love the 25-year-old. I love the 30, the 35, the 40, the 50-year-old. I love all the versions of myself. And I have like invited all of myself to be the co-conspirators of me being happy and safe and healthy and whole. And when I get peaked or trauma response shows up and that 15-year-old Omisade shows up and she is like, bout it, I'm like, listen, you're actually safe. It's not a real thing. It's not 1982. You don't have to fight. You can just chill. It's okay. That was 40 years ago. I get why you were doing that. You don't have to do that now.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Let's talk about it. Let's drink some water. Let's walk outside. And I'm not mad at you. And I'm not putting you out. And I'm not pushing you away. I'm actually inviting you in. And then the 15-year-old gets to relax. And she gets to be like, oh, this is cool. Okay. You're not bad for almost 55-year-old version.
Yeah. She learns that you're not going to punish her.
Not going to punish her. I used to punish her.
Yeah.
I had to apologize to her because I was punishing all these younger versions of myself.
And abandoning them. And
Yeah.
Okay. So you brought up two really important things. This reunification. I want to ask you about what or whom you've had to walk away from in order to choose you, in order to walk towards you, what you've had to walk away from in order to walk closer to yourself. And also you mentioned stating what it is that you want when you finally admit to yourself and say out loud in no uncertain terms what you want.
Mm-hmm.
There's obvious power in that. And I want you to talk about that. And, because we don't so often, or we don't for years, or we do it very indirectly in a very apologetic way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, take all of that and run with it.
The thing that I definitely feel like the thing that I had to walk away from, it wasn't a person, it was a belief or a mindset. And the mindset that I had to walk away from, that I'm still walking away from, is that I don't inherently deserve love or care unless I am performing, unless I'm sparkly, unless I'm producing something that's so amazing that you can't find someplace else. And so this like anxiousness that gets attached to the performing, the anxiousness that gets attached to producing, the anxiousness that gets attached to, I got to do it better than anybody else has ever done it. I got to do something that's like spectacular, because if I don't, at some point, whoever I'm engaged with, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a collaborator, whether it's a lover, a partner, or an ex-spouse, will look at me and be like, you're not that great. I changed my mind. I don't find you appealing. I actually don't love you. I don't think you deserve my love. I don't want to keep you safe. Right? So this mindset was like, oh shit, well, let me just keep doing this, to glamour you, to glamour myself, to glamour these folks. So that way they're always like, wow, there's just a whole lot of activity going on here. Oh my goodness, Omisade is just so fantastic. And she's so bright and she's so sparkly. She's got this big personality and she does things big. And so, oh my goodness, it's just like overwhelmed with all of the stimulation that I'm providing, right? All of the stimulation, sexual stimulation as well. Like,
all kinds of stimulation. All of it.
Oh, she's, right?
She does it all.
I'm trying to keep you distracted so you don't really see me.
Yeah.
Because if you really see me, full face, no makeup, no judging, no mask, no dancing, no sexy, no performative,
no performing,
no amazing speaking or training or facilitation or whatever that I'm engaging in, and you just looking at me straight on, that you won't find me wanting. That you won't look at me and say, oh, I don't know if I want that. Never mind, change my mind. On to the next thing. Good luck. Right? And so that had to be the thing that I was willing to walk away from. And also the thing that I needed to be willing to turn to, which was my more authentic self, right? To know that it is okay for me to remove the mask. There's some masks I'm going to hold on to because I'm a Black woman living in this country.
Yes.
Not safe for people who look like me here. So there's a mask that I do keep, that I will always keep.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that in my lifetime that mask also could be discarded, that I could be like, oh, I can move in this world and in this country and feel safe as a Black woman, but I don't know if that's actually going to be a true statement for me.
Yeah, we're not going to be alive long enough for
right. So there are some masks that are very functional.
Yeah.
That I understand. But there are also some masks that were just really choking the air out of my body and was not allowing me to see myself fully, and also the folk that I would actually like to see me fully.
Ones you want. Yeah.
The ones I want. I get to choose who my intimates are.
Yeah.
I get to choose who I want to expose, reveal, lean into with my vulnerable, authentic, soft, open-hearted self. Right. And so the decision to know that, that's, I am sparkly, I think naturally. And then I'm also
that's obvious. It
like
emanates,
I appreciate that. And I also I have a very strong performative mask. And so to be able to really level down into a more authentic place has been such a beautiful, hard generous journey for myself. I feel like I'm extending myself a lot of generosity in this space, a lot of grace.
A lot of respect. You have to
being courageous. It's like I'm like a very scary thing to be like, oh, here you go. This is just look. This is me. Here I am. When
it's the bravest thing.
Oh, when I'm feeling really good about myself, and also when I've messed up, like to be able to be like, that was not okay. I need to fix this. I need to fix that. I need to apologize. I need to take responsibility, be culpable for a situation.
And now that you know how to treat yourself without shame, and you don't approach your own self with derision and hatred anymore, you can take accountability and take responsibility and apologize in like a restorative way, in a collaborative way. It doesn't feel horrible or like an indictment of who you are.
It doesn't feel like an indictment, but it can still feel hard. I had a recent situation where somebody shared with me some really important things that they experienced with me that was hurtful to them. It was hurtful. And I'm grateful that they were honest with me. I'm grateful that they were vulnerable with me. And I felt it in my chest. I felt sick. I was like, oh, I cannot believe that I did that. Right. And my initial reaction was to be defensive and to be like, well, that's not what I meant to do. Or that's not how I really feel. Like, but that's not useful. And it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So like me centering my feelings
exactly
was courageous enough to say to me, Omi, there's something that you do that's hurtful to me and I need you to stop doing it.
And what a friend. That's powerful.
Right. Which lets me know that this person actually loves me.
Yes.
Right. Like they love our relationship and they want our relationship to be stronger, more.
And like, guess what, Omi? I love you and I love our relationship even when you do something that hurt me. Like,
and I want to invite you to stop doing it. And I want to talk with you about it. So the first thing I did was, give myself permission to feel my feelings. Like I kind of walked around, I needed to get myself together. And then I responded and it was like, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. And I take responsibility. And I'm committed to fixing this. And we can talk about this when you're ready. There's work I gotta do.
Yeah.
And
it's so simple.
It was so simple, but I was just, all the range of emotions. I felt like crying. My heart was just racing, shaking. And and I also was trying to be very, very vigilant in my response. I was like, I want them to know that this is not a knee-jerk reaction. Take your time, take your time, take your time. This is important. Like, again, there is no perfection. We will hurt people.
Yeah.
We will mess up. People will hurt us. They will mess up. And like this person modeled for me how I can also let people know when I feel harmed by someone's actions or words to say, listen, I really care about you and I care about this relationship. There's some things that you've done that really hurt me.
Yeah.
And I'd like for us to talk about it.
I think that having those kinds of conversations in friendships and relationships and in professional relationships with colleagues is becoming more normalized and more accepted. And I think that's so exciting because we don't have to have relationships anymore that feel like putting on a mask for 30 years.
Right. Right. Or waiting for, part of my, my shadow side of my fire is I would allow myself to get angry and then my angry will be the fuel for my honesty.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as an Aries, literally, you're just speaking my soul. Yes. Continue.
Light your ass all the way up. Like I would just like wait until I am like looking like Jack from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna let you have it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, like brutally honest and say everything that I've been holding on to, as opposed to like giving myself permission all along to be like, that was not okay. I don't feel good about that, And
that door is always open. You
and
can
also
always
know
be
that
honest.
anger and rage is a real emotion that I also don't want to deny myself or act like I'm not experiencing it.
Yeah.
And also that gives me more information again about where I'm at, what's going on with me, if I'm experiencing anger or rage, which I think is scary to, not scary, but it's been problematized, like as a Black woman, if you are,
it's been pathologized, and yes, of course.
It totally has, Sophie. And so like if you are,
I cannot even, it's horrific. Like for me to talk about like how I'm like healing my relationship with anger, it's one thing, but I'm like, I cannot even understand a Black woman healing her relationship with anger. Like when you've been told by everyone in all areas, you're not allowed to have this. If you do, it will be, like we said, pathologized,
and you'll be punished,
legalized. Exactly. Yeah.
The indictment is really intense, and the punishment is really intense. It's just like, what is going to
actually punished for having emotions?
You can actually be punished for having emotions. It happened generationally.
Yep. Right? Yeah, that is a lot to overcome. So you know what? I know we're like at the end of the hour. And as far as I know, you're not free for the next 8 hours of the day to keep talking, right?
I'm not, even though I feel like be like, let's go get some tea and come back and continue this conversation. And then to be like, wait, let's go get some wine and continue this conversation.
Let's just keep going and going. Seriously, I love talking to you. But I do want to, like, in this next transition to the end of the conversation, where I want you to tell everyone how they can find everything from you and learn from you and all of the things that you have to offer. But also just, I thought this was going to be where we started the conversation, but it wasn't. In discussing decolonizing menopause and decolonizing healing and decolonizing what it means to just be a person in the world, tell us a little bit about how you'd like to end this conversation on that note.
I think that, a lot of people have been using the moniker of decolonization as it relates to a lot of constructs that we move inside of in our culture, right? So people talk about decolonizing fitness, they talk about decolonizing aging, but the decolonizing construct was first introduced to me by my Indigenous brothers and sisters who talked about the decolonization of an Indigenous mind and Indigenous land, Indigenous bodies, right? It's like, what does it mean for someone who is not a part of your culture, who did not originate from the land, the space, the region, or who you are, to come in, co-opt and take your land, and then also engage in the erasure and the genocide of your people, like intentionally, right? And so the decolonization,
systematically, intentionally, for centuries. Yeah.
So the decolonization language was first introduced to me through indigeneity. It's like, what does it mean for Indigenous First Nation people to be engaged in the decolonization, not only of the land, but of their culture and their people, right? And that requires deep study in history. It requires a deep understanding of constructs and systemic oppression. It requires a commitment to this radical liberatory healing and love, and what is possible in terms of reunification and really understanding who you are. And so when I talk about decolonizing menopause, I really begin by thinking about what has been the journey of women identified people or gender expansive people's bodies in our culture, and how our bodies have been problematized, in particular Black bodies, right? So what's been our experience with not having agency over our bodies? What's been our experience of not being believed about how we're experiencing our bodies, whether that is pain, right? Whether that's discomfort, whether that's concern or fear, and being told, well, that couldn't possibly be true. That's not accurate. You can't be experiencing that amount of pain. You're fine.
Yeah. You're fine.
You're fine. And the implications can range from like just real confusion and discomfort to death.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
The outcome can be death.
Yeah.
And so if we are decolonizing menopause and aging, it kind of lives inside of this rubric of like, well, what does it mean for you to have agency over your body?
Mm.
And what were you told about your body? Who told you that? Where did the messages come about your body? What your body can do as your body continues to evolve. Your body is always changing and evolving from the moment you take your first breath to the moment you take your last. And in between all of those moments, we have been told as Black people, as Black women, that your body's a problem. Your body's a problem. The way it's shaped, your size, your sex, your sexuality, your
the texture
gender,
of your hair. Yeah.
Everything is a problem.
Yeah.
And so then you find yourself then at this stage of your life where you're aging and your body is shifting and changing again. And then people are telling you, well, menopause is a whole shit show. You're going to be hot.
Your problems get different and worse.
What? It's going to be awful. And then your vagina is going to dry up and then you're going to die.
Yeah.
That's it.
And no one's going to ever love you again. And
no, absolutely not. You are not lovable. You weren't lovable to begin with, but now
you're extra disgusting. Yeah.
Right. And so the decolonizing of that and the deconstructing of that and the pulling apart and looking in. I'm always a student of history. I love history. I'm a student of culture. I pay attention to the way culture moves and the way we treat each other and what we value, what we don't value. And then, so the framing of decolonizing menopause, decolonizing aging, decolonizing the crone is to deconstruct through my understanding of history and contemporary constructs what we believe about our bodies and our value and our ability to have agency, our ability to choose, our ability to evolve and love and heal and be safe and experience pleasure and joy, all those things.
So let's end with talking about the word beautiful, because when I hear you speak and when I read your words and when I look at you, that word just flashes in front of me. I mean, so unbelievably, unspeakably beautiful. But you mentioned in your Style Like You interview, which everyone should go listen to, that that's not a word you use to describe yourself. So, and I'm also obsessed with women and female-bodied people finding value and finding identity in things that have nothing to do with physical beauty, for so many reasons. We could talk about that, consumption, etc. But how do you describe yourself? What are the words that you love to use to describe Omisade?
I do think I have a beautiful heart. I think I call myself lion-hearted because I think I'm very courageous. I think I'm very generous. And I think I'm very protective of the people that I love. So that's definitely one of the first things that I would describe myself as. I also think I'm funny as hell. Like, I think I'm a hoot. And I have a quick, bawdy sense of humor. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the quips that I can pull out in any situation to bring levity to a situation, or just enjoy and be raucous. I have a raucous sense of humor. I think I'm also a very sensual person. I enjoy touch. I enjoy being touched, and I enjoy touching people. I like the sensory experience of pleasure, so smell and touch and music. So I think that I don't always say it in that way, but I do think I'm a very sensual person. As far as my aesthetic is concerned, I still wouldn't say that I'm beautiful in terms of what people would see physically. I think I'm striking. I think that I'm sassy, sexy even, but not beautiful. I think that someone would look at me and be like, "Ooh, she's striking," but not like, "Oh, she's really beautiful." I don't know why that still feels that way. I'm still committed to exploring that and being open to seeing myself beautiful inside and out.
Yeah.
I think that I am a very emotionally sensitive person. So a lot of people these days are using the language of empath or empathic, or empathetic. I think I have a certain sensitivity to energy. And so when I see someone struggling, I want to understand what's going on and want to be helpful. If I see somebody happy or excited, I want to be excited too. Be like, this is so good. We should talk about this. I want to celebrate. Like, I'm definitely like, we should
share
celebrate.
this. Yeah.
I definitely, my mood can be affected by the people who I really care about in their joy and in their sorrow. So I have a particular sensitivity in that way. And I'm a lucid dreamer. So I believe in the spirit realm. I'm very spiritual. Have a deep spiritual practice. And I know that I sometimes receive messages through my sleep that I know aren't dreams. And I'm a lucid enough dreamer that sometimes I'll even talk to myself in a dream and say, you should pay attention to this part of the dream. This is where the good
well, that's helpful. That's convenient that you have that.
It is helpful.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. But sometimes it doesn't lend itself to actually restorative deep sleep because I'm just busy all night long. Yeah. Conversations with myself. Right?
Yeah, that is true. Then you'll wake up and you're like, I was at work all night.
Right. And
I was getting shit done.
Getting stuff done. And I need to think about what I was getting done. And I need to figure out what this means. Right.
Yeah. Seriously. Oh, that is so funny. Yep. Completely. Oh my goodness. Well, I cannot thank you enough. I think that this was a really important conversation that I wanted to have. And I really wanted you on my podcast because when I think about, I have to be obsessed with what is going to help my clients stop wasting their 20s on people pleasing and start being alive and start loving their lives, free from codependency, free from all the codependent bullshit, not having boundaries, feeling insecure, not living life as fully as it wants us to live it. And so you were the perfect person. I was like, she has to come on. Any of the millennial women who are struggling with codependency need to hear about how Omisade is done fucking around, not living a beautiful life that you savor all the time. And I cannot thank you enough for your example in that and for all the guidance you've given us. Everyone has to go listen to your podcast. It's genius. And I want you to tell us where we can learn from you. Tell everyone your offerings now. Please do that.
I appreciate, Sophie, so much being able to have this conversation. I absolutely enjoy the relationships I have with the millennial women and women identified people in my life. I learned so much from them. Well, you can check us out on our website. It's www.Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause. You can listen to the first 3 seasons of the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's on Apple or Stitcher or Spotify or wherever. We are about to launch season 4 in March. So we're really excited about that. And we just had our first interview for season 4. It's going to be so juicy. Folks will be like, what?
Cannot wait.
So good. And you can follow us on social media. You can follow me at Oshun Sweet and Sour. That's OSHUNSWEETNSOUR. Or you can follow Black Girls Guide at Black Girls Guide to Menopause on IG. So that's where you can check me out.
And regardless of your racial identity or your age, I want every, tiny little Chinese 16-year-old high school student to listen to Black Girls Guide to Surviving Menopause. Everybody.
Everybody's welcome. And
anyone who has a child, anyone who has a daughter, everyone has to listen to it. It's genius.
Thank you, Sophie.
Omi, thank you so much for today. I hope you have a beautiful day and I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, beloved. Thanks so much.
Bye, gorgeous.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, which I don't know how you couldn't, go find everything Omisade related in the show notes. Go follow her on Instagram at Ocean Sweet and Sour. Go listen to her genius podcast, Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause. And you can also find all of her work and how to hire her and connect with her at blackgirlsguidetosurvivingmenopause.com. To learn more about me and the work that I do with my clients to heal their codependency, and to apply for one of the last few spots in my next group coaching round, find me on Instagram at Codependent Millennial or visit my website at codependentmillennial.com. You can also text me at 216-279-4035. And yes, it's really me, I promise. Until next time, have a really, really lovely time being alive. And I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.